Well, are we ready for another project? I'm still going to stay with the simple one. Today, let's use the sandstone. They're very easy to work with because if you need to modify the shape, you could take your file. Even sandpaper, a lot of times, will change the shape for you. What I've been doing is I broke them up and threw them in the tumbler. These sandstone was not like this. There were big slabs. I think I bought them as stepping stones and left over from my landscape day. So they're probably 2 feet across, somewhat like that. So took it and broke them up and then stuck them in the tumbler so it looks almost like it's naturally occurring stones in the creek or whatever. That's our starting point, is our base. You see the discoloration? Remember I was saying that some of this is left over from my landscape days, right? Well, that is the moss. So once we get done with this, especially now that we're using cement base as the mortar, right? It should be able to withstand the weathering. That's what I was thinking about, rather than using epoxy. Anyway, so over time, that moss will start to grow again. So I think we're going to have this aging process speeding along. But anyway, that's what we have to work with. So I'll go ahead and take the stone to the right, which is the pedestal, and get that to kind of stick to the base. So this is our relatively simple project. Well, one of the first problems we have is this rock is tilting. So it's going to have to go like that, right? So I'll go ahead and put some on the bottom and then wait till half dry so that it'll stay more plumb. So I have the motor on the bottom trying to flatten that out, so when we do use the motor to fix it to the base, it'll be plumb. If you're wondering what this writing is all about, it's Japanese. It's Bonjin. The bon part is like the bonsai or the container, and Jin is the god. So in Japan, especially people that practice Shintoism, they believe in many gods. So there is a god for the garden, the house. When the fishermen go off to sea, they ask for safe passage from the god of the ocean or fishing or whatever. And I just happened to run across this one about the bonsai. So normally in the Japanese tradition, you wouldn't have to write it. You would understand. But hey, we're in the Western world. People like to see these kind of writings. So I make some with writing, others without. So it's kind of up to the individual. But yeah, something that I ran across 20, 30 years ago. And I guess I haven't really shared it with a whole lot of people. As I was waiting for the motor to set, I'm getting a little impatient here. So now the title of this is 3 Ishizukuri of the Bonjin variety. Like I was saying before, it's more efficient to do like a dozen at a time. Well, I'm going to do 3 of them for this chapter. Okay, now I've got 3 of them going at the same time. A little more efficient. But can you imagine if I got a dozen at the same time, right? Because there's a lot of sit and wait. Okay, this one over here on the right, we got a whole lot of motor showing, right? But there was a slant. So I had to put motor here to make it stand plumb. But what I'm going to do is to add that, and it will start to hide. So anyway, there's a lot of stuff that's going to happen yet. So let's stay tuned. Remember I was telling you about the Bonjin is mostly Shintoism, but my father-in-law, before he passed away, he was a Buddhist priest, and he had no problem with this Bonjin concept. In fact, he blessed it for me. Actually, my kids, he says, Grandpa, he has a God for the bath. And that one, hopefully you'll have a nice relaxing bath. But the funniest one was the god of the toilet. And if you know anything about the old Japanese toilet, right? Well, it's basically like a porta potty. So hopefully you don't fall in, or your slipper don't fall in. So yes, having a god of the toilet makes sense. And he was a Buddhist priest. So there was no problem with this Bonjin concept. And I think the Japanese people in general are very inclusive of very different ideas. This part here was pre-made. Actually, when it's flat like this, you could actually use glue. So these were glued on, waterproof glue. And then I'm going to pre-make these so it'll go on top of that. See why we have to make these in small batches? I've been sitting around for about 20 minutes now, and then we'll get to this next step, and then we'll sit around for another 20-30 minutes, and then we'll keep on. When I first started, when I didn't have this quick set and it was very cold, it took a half a day for each step. So we're doing much better now. But anyway, so what I'm gonna do is, oh, I already did stick that on. Okay, so now I'm gonna put this on here and then have this pre-made. There, see? And then we just let that set up, and I'll do the same thing with these. Well, we're coming to almost a close. The one on the right is more or less done, and then the one on the left and the one in the middle still got one more thing to install. Well, while we're here, why don't we talk a little bit about the incense. These I put as an incense holder, and it may or may not be used by whoever. But I don't know, there's all kinds of connotations with the incense. But currently, I think a lot of people use the incense just because they like it. Remember I talked about my friend Ken. Every time I go visit him, he would, I think to honor me, he would have incense burning. And after a while, I finally had to tell him, hey, Ken, you know, I'm allergic to the incense. Well, I wasn't like that when I was younger, but I don't know, somehow I ended up becoming allergic to it. In the Buddhist tradition, we do use the incense a lot, but I do have a difficult time breathing when there's a lot of incense. But I was thinking in terms of how it's being used now. So non-religious, you like it, you do it, you don't do it. So anyway, most of what we do should be for personal enjoyment without a whole lot of deep thoughts. I got the three very different, well, it's sort of similar and different. The Bonjin Ishizukuri. So the one on the left is what I started with, but then I had so much time in between, I added the two. So this one in the middle, the incense burner is separate in case they don't want it. If they want it, they could have it like that, right? And then the one on the right has no marking. Well, I think, remember I was telling you that the Japanese approach, I think, would be more like the one on the right without any writing, because it's more or less understood. But anyway, I made 3 slightly different versions of the Ishizukuri lanterns with the Bonjin. So anyway, hopefully you enjoy the process. I'll be making more, so please stay tuned. This is Hiro saying goodbye. I'll see you again real soon in another chapter. I won't be able to touch this for a while because it's sort of holding its shape, but it's wet, so if I bump the table, some of the parts will fall off. But anyway, for you, it looks like it's complete. Goodbye.